Acadiana. Thank you for tuning in to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media right here in Lafayette, Louisiana. We do this production in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate and the Advocate at Large, bringing you all the local and state news as well as some national news. We bring this news to you in audio format every Monday through Friday between 9 and 10 a.m. And we could not do that without the generous volunteer efforts of our news readers. This morning, we are thankful to be joined by Alicia Silv. Good morning, Alicia. How are you?
Good morning, Matt. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for being here to read the news. I am going to go listen on Cypress Street. Thanks again.
You're welcome. Good morning, all of the listeners out there. We'll be starting off with Progress Slow on Virus Relief Package by Andrew Taylor. Negotiators on a huge coronavirus relief bill reported slight progress after talks resumed Monday afternoon in the Capitol, with issues like food for the poor and aid to schools struggling to reopen safely, assuming a higher profile in the talks. Multiple obstacles remain, including an impasse so far on extending a $600 per week of progress at almost the very moment that top Senate Republican Mitch McConnell was slamming them for taking a hard line in the talks. All sides predict a long slog ahead. Several more days of talks are expected, if not more, as lawmakers seek to deliver what will likely be the final legislative response to the pandemic before the November election. We are really getting an understanding of each side's position, and we're making some progress on certain issues moving closer together, said Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. There are a lot of issues that are still outstanding, but I think there is a desire to get something done as soon as we can. Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, a lead negotiator for President Donald Trump, said afterward that we continue to make a little bit of progress, and the administration is not insistent on a small bore approach centered on extending the supplemental unemployment benefit and leaving other items for later. A GOP move to advance a slimmed down relief package has been a recent point of conflict, with Democrats insisting there must be a comprehensive deal. We're open to a bigger package if we can reach an agreement, Munchin said. On the Senate floor, McConnell, a representative of Kentucky, re-upped his complaint that Democrats are taking too tough a line. McConnell is not a direct participant in the talks, but is likely to be an important force in closing any potential agreement. The Speaker of the House and the Democratic leader are continuing to say, our way or the highway, with a massive wish list for left wing lobbyists that was slapped together a few weeks ago called a coronavirus bill, McConnell said. Speaking to reporters after the 2-hour session, Democratic negotiators pressed the case for additional food aid, funding for the Postal Service, and the $600 per week jobless benefit that lapsed last week. The benefit has helped prop up the economy and family budgets as the coronavirus has wrought havoc. The White House is seeking opportunities to boost Trump, like providing another round of $1,200 stimulus payments and extending the supplemental jobless benefit and partial eviction ban. Pelosi, the top Democratic negotiator, appears intent on an agreement as well, but she's made it clear she needs big money for state and local governments, unemployment benefits, and food aid. It was productive. We're moving down the track. We still have our differences. We are trying to have a clearer understanding of what the needs are. And the needs are that millions of children in our country are food insecure, Pelosi said. Millions of people in our country are concerned about being evicted. Tens of millions of people are on unemployment insurance. Most members of the Democratic controlled House have left Washington and won't return until there is an agreement to vote on, but the GOP held Senate is trapped in the Capitol. Areas of agreement already include the $1,200 direct payment and changes to the Paycheck Protection Program to permit especially hard hit businesses to obtain another loan under generous forgiveness terms. But the terms and structure of the unemployment benefit remain a huge sticking point, negotiators said Sunday. And White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows hasn't made any concessions on the almost $1 trillion Pelosi wants for state and local governments grappling with pandemic related revenue losses. Pelosi said she'd consider reducing the $600 benefit for people in states with lower unemployment rates. Republicans want to cut the benefit to encourage beneficiaries to return to work and say it is bad policy since it pays many jobless people more money than they made at their previous jobs. Right now, today, we have an emergency, Pelosi said on Monday on CNN. A building is on fire and they are deciding how much water they want to have in the bucket. This is very important to stop. Millions of people could have fallen into poverty without this $600. Another sticking point is that Republicans want to give more school aid to systems that are restarting with in school learning, even as Dr. Deborah Birx, Trump's top coronavirus advisor, cautioned that schools in areas with spikes in cases should delay reopening. COVID-19 coronavirus, the latest cases still declining. Region makes progress, but numbers remain high, by Ben Myers. The Acadiana region on Monday continued to see a steady decline in coronavirus cases and hospitalizations as fatalities again increased. While the 7-day case and hospitalization totals on Monday pointed to clear progress, they remained extremely high compared with late spring. The rolling weekly caseload on Monday was nearly 7 times what it was on June 3rd, and the number of inpatients was more than double the peak of the spring outbreak. The ground left to make up underscores the massive scale of the summer outbreak in the 7 Acadiana parishes that comprise Region 4, which has recorded more new cases since July 4th than any of the state's other 8 administrative regions. On a per capita basis during that time, Region 4 is second only to neighboring Region 5, which borders Texas. Allen Parish and Acadia Parish, which share a border but are in separate regions, are first and second in the per capita caseload since July 4th. Acadia Parish has been disproportional number of coronavirus deaths as well. There had been 26 deaths in Acadia Parish over 2 weeks as of Monday, just two fewer than in Lafayette Parish, where the population is nearly 4 times as large. The number of deaths continued rising throughout Region 4, which has a population of a little more than 600,000. With 9 recorded on Monday, there had been 92 coronavirus deaths over the past 2 weeks. That was an 88% increase over the 2-week total on July 20th. Still, from the standpoint of reducing spread, rolling week over week data comparisons in Region 4 have been consistently encouraging in recent days, with steady declines since July 27th. With 1,629 new cases recorded over the past 7 days, the rolling weekly caseload in Region 4 was the lowest it has been in a month. Testing volumes are also slowing down, but not as quickly as new cases. The weekly case total on Monday was 40% lower than on July 27th. The test volume was 25% lower. New cases as a percentage of tests reported over 7 days ticked below 10%, barely for the first time since July 1st. With 256 COVID-19 inpatients across the region as of Monday, the number of hospitalizations had decreased by 39 since July 27th. Hospitalizations increased by 21 in the previous 7 day period and by 22 the week before that. And in other news, business brisk at restaurant that lost food permit. Denham Springs Eatery refuses to require mask by Yusuf Ardad. Lines of people, many without masks, queued up at a bustling Livingston Parish barbecue restaurant Monday, just days after the state revoked the eatery's food permit for violating rules requiring customers and employees to wear masks and follow the coronavirus social distancing guidelines. During a recent inspection, Louisiana Department of Health agents found tables weren't spaced properly at the Firehouse Barbecue in Denham Springs, and customers and employees weren't wearing masks. State officials said the owner of the restaurant refused to make any changes, prompting the health department on Friday to revoke the business's food permit. Nevertheless, the restaurant on Monday continued to seat diners. The illegal mask mandate has been attempted to be enforced upon our store by harming the income of the business and employees without a hearing, a handwritten sign read on the door, a few inches from a Friday health department document ordering the business to close. Around noon on Monday, dozens of customers had lined up inside the eatery located between an insurance company and an empty store off the Rev. Tony Spell, who was charged with spring on violating who was charged this spring on violating the governor's order limiting crowd sizes by holding large services at his central church, also had lunch at the barbecue joint. He said he came to support the owner's challenge against the state and to buy everything he could from them. Spell called the state's crackdown on the restaurant tyrannical and argued the mandates are unconstitutional. It never was about safety, Spell said. It was about taking away our freedoms. The Pentecostal preacher was charged in March with 6 counts of violating the governor's emergency order after he held several large services that exceeded crowd limits in place at the time. Spell's legal troubles also mounted when a protester in front of his church accused the pastor of attempting to back into him with a bus, leading to an assault charge that is also pending in East Baton Rouge District Court. Despite some diners claiming the mask mandate is an infringement of their rights, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and a wide range of health experts have stressed the importance of facial coverings to limit the spread of viral droplets from the wearer to others. Masks are effective, said Tulane University epidemiologist Dr. Susan Hassig, who specializes in infectious diseases. With so many people that don't know they're possibly infected, we all need to wear a mask, period. The White House Coronavirus Task Force has also said widespread mask usage is one of the few ways to keep states from again having to issue stay at home orders. After their lunch at Firehouse, Greg Oliphant, 38 of Albany, and his 20-year-old daughter, Allie Pullitz, said getting accurate public health information is difficult because they feel it's become politicized. They said it should be up to each individual to decide whether to wear a mask and for businesses to decide whether to require them. But customers should abide by whatever rules businesses impose. If a mask makes you feel safer, it's completely fine to wear one, Pulitz said. But I don't think the state should be enforcing it, especially on businesses. Removing the restaurant's food permit marked the first serious enforcement action Governor John Bell Edwards' administration has taken against a restaurant. The health department said it plans to wait on any legal action against the business until a judge in Lafayette rules in a separate lawsuit brought by bar owners challenging the governor's order that required their businesses to shut down. Firehouse owners Eunice and Danielle Bunch, who run the business under the name God's Table LLC, have said in social media posts that some of their employees had adverse medical reactions to wearing masks and they would allow customers to decide whether to wear them. They said they were not available for an interview Monday afternoon. Edwards' administration has so far hesitated to penalize businesses that violate the mandates, but in recent weeks, the administration has flexed the state's regulatory muscle. Last week, the state fire marshal's office ordered 4 bars to close after finding they were allowing large crowds or on site consumption. Enforcement came after the governor mandated bars to end in person consumption last month when he modified his executive order to include closing bars and requiring masks in much of the state. Lafayette City Council seeks to take control of recreation funds by Claire Taylor. The Lafayette City Council on Tuesday will try to take control of city generated money for parks and recreation away from the parish council. Even though City of Lafayette taxpayers pay for most of the department's expenses, the parish council controls the department's budget. We want the administration to remove all our city dollars from the parish parks, Liz Aber said Monday evening. It's a city-only millage. It should not be paying for the parish parks. We're simply saying we want to keep our city taxpayers' dollars in our city parks. Last week, at a joint meeting, the city council wanted to introduce an ordinance that would force Mayor President Josh Guillory to keep open at least until the new fiscal year on November 1st for recreation centers in largely black neighborhoods. The parish council could not muster a second to an introductory ordinance that would have allowed residents to speak at the meeting. That didn't sit well with the city council, whose residents pay a property tax dedicated to parks and recreation. There is no other dedicated tax from residents parish-wide to fund parks and creation under Lafayette Consolidated Government. At a special city council meeting on Tuesday, the city council is expected to introduce an ordinance sponsored by Councilwomen Nanette Cook and Liz Hebert that would separate city parks and recreation funds from parish funds and put them under control of the city council. City Council Chairman Pat Lewis said Monday he supports the ordinance. Money generated by the city-only property tax would be spent only on city parks and recreation expenses, the ordinance states. A 1.92 mil property tax collected solely in the city of Lafayette generates about $3 million a year for parks and recreation. The language of the proposal that went before voters states that any revenue tax generates is to be spent in the city of Lafayette. In Guillory's proposed 2020-21 budget, which is under review by the councils, property owners in the city of Lafayette would contribute $3.9 million a year to parks and recreation compared to only $480,000 that would be supplied by the parish through its general operating fund. Until January, the city and parish councils were one governing body, but voters approved a home rule charter amendment splitting the city parish council into a city council and a parish council. One of the goals of the split was to give city representatives more control over city finances and operations. City residents and representatives have long complained that under Lafayette consolidated government, the city of Lafayette financially supports many parish government functions. The ordinance up for consideration Tuesday would give the city council control over city generated money dedicated to parks and recreation in the city of Lafayette. Guillory announced in July that he was shutting down 4 recreation centers in North Lafayette and cutting 37 employees to save money. Most of the city's recreation centers are in North Lafayette. The few elsewhere in the city would remain open under Guillory's plan. There are no recreation centers outside the city of Lafayette, but there are several parks. The Lafayette Department of Parks and Recreation also owns and operates Les Chains Golf Course in Youngsville, one of one of 3 the department owns. None targeted is for closure. Cassidy pitches pair of provisions for bill. Senator include federal relief for local governments, another round of stimulus checks by Bryn Stoll. Frustrations seem to be mounting on Capitol Hill over the slow pace of negotiations on another coronavirus relief package, according to Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy, who's proposed a pair of provisions on aid for local governments and another round of stimulus checks that he views as potential compromises. There still seems to be a gulf between draft bills put forward by House Democrats and Senate Republicans, both in terms of money and of policy, Cassidy, a representative of Baton Rouge, said on Monday after a lunchtime briefing with Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, who's helping lead negotiations on behalf of the Trump administration. Pressure to resolve the impasse has mounted over the past week as a number of key provisions in the CARES Act, the sprawling federal relief package passed in March, began to expire, including a $600 per week federal boost to unemployment payments that propped up household incomes for more than 400,000 out of work Louisianians. The last round of federally extended unemployment checks went out last week. Without the federal boost, workers on unemployment in Louisiana are said to see their benefits drop more than 70%, with the maximum weekly benefit dropping from $847 to $247. Democrats in the House of Representatives passed a $3 trillion package in May. A draft proposal from the Senate Republicans carried a much lower price tag of about $1 trillion. Among the areas left unaddressed in the Senate Republican proposal was federal relief for state and local governments, many of which have seen tax revenues plummet during the pandemic and are, unlike the federal government, generally prohibited from running budget deficits and borrowing money to avoid cuts. Cassidy has for Cassidy has for months pushed a proposed $500 billion federal fund to plug holes in the state and local government budgets, citing the particularly heavy blow the pandemic has dealt to government budgets in Louisiana and especially the New Orleans area. That might be something of a middle ground between Democratic proposal, which would send roughly twice as much, about $1 trillion, to state and local governments, and the current Republican proposal that includes about $100 billion for public schools, but little else in aid for state and local governments. Cassidy pointed to a Moody's study which flagged heavy reliance on natural resource royalties, sales taxes, and tourism as particularly stark risk factors for local government budgets. That's our state economy. Many of Cassidy's GOP colleagues have been cool to that idea, deriding it as a bailout for profligate, pro- profligate local governments and claiming that billions in federal relief would let leaders in some states prolong coronavirus restrictions on businesses instead of allowing the yawning tax shortfalls to pressure local leaders into reopening their economies. Cassidy rejected that framing, noting the federal officials urged state and local leaders to shutter sectors of their economy to slow the rampant spread of the virus, and that without federal relief, local governments could be forced into layoffs to balance budgets. We're trying to help people who did the right thing, which is trying to stop the spread of disease. And we're trying to enable them to do the right thing, which is to continue to employ the firefighters, police officers, and everyone else we need, said Cassidy. We think it's a good bill, and I won't be surprised if it's where we end up landing as negotiations take place. Cassidy also joined three fellow Republican Senators Mark Rubio, a representative of Florida, Steve Daines, representative of Montana, and Mitt Romney, a representative of Utah, in pitching a slightly modified second round of stimulus checks sent to most Americans in April as part of the CARES Act. Cassidy's proposal would more heavily tilt the stimulus checks toward parents and families while sending less money to childless adults. The CARES Act sent adults earning less than $75,000 a year a one time check for $1,200 for each adult and $600 for dependent children. Cassidy's proposal would tweak that send to everyone, adults and children alike, 1,000 each. It is a workable plan, and we're moving on to Groups Want to Save Science Museum. Concerned citizens push back against proposed budget cuts by Megan Wyatt. There's an effort underway by Acadiana residents to save the Lafayette Science Museum, which is in danger of closing at the end of the year because of proposed budget cuts. Blake Lagno, who served as exhibits curator of the museum for 3 years, started the Save Our Museum Facebook page late Friday night. More than 1,000 people liked the page over the weekend. For the size and the city that we're in, it's really a world class museum, Lagno said. People would walk in and be completely blown away by what they see. We really just have this jewel in the middle of downtown, and it would be a shame for that to go away. Save Our Museum aims to defend the museum with a unified voice, allowing residents to share the far reaching impact the museum has had on individuals, families, educational facilities, and other organizations. It will also ensure the Science Museum's plight doesn't get lost in the whirlwind of news stories that have consumed 2020, organizers said. People have their own lives going on, and they're trying to figure out how to get kids back to school and everything else. What I didn't want to happen was for people who love the museum to look up in a few months and say, hey, what happened to the museum? There are lots of, granted, very worthy causes right now, but I didn't want that unawareness to mark the end of the museum. Lafayette Consolidated Government's proposed budget for the upcoming fiscal year slashes the museum's funding by 80% from over $1.1 million to just $271,000. The proposed personnel budget would be enough for just one position, and the proposed utilities budget would cover just 1 month's worth of expenses, according to those familiar with the museum's budget. In addition to the Facebook effort, there's also an online petition called Open Up the Lafayette Science Museum by Lisa Richard on change.org that's gathered more than 3,000 signatures. The Lafayette Science Museum doesn't just house a planetarium, virtual reality labs, and flashy hands on exhibits. It also houses federal collections that are hard to come by, along with University of Louisiana at Lafayette geology artifacts. It's a thriving day to day side of the scientific community in Lafayette, which is large and important and shouldn't be taken lightly when these kinds of budget decisions are made, Lagno said. One of the fears of this group is that if this process ends in a budget shortfall and the city loses the museum, those collections and archives are gone forever. You don't just get those back. They've been housed somewhere else, and that would be devastating for the work that's been done over the last 50 years. The museum's existence is owed to a women's organization known as Les Deux Ans. Its members opened the museum, formerly known as the Lafayette Natural History Museum and Planetarium, in 1969 near Girard Park. In 2002, the museum moved to its downtown location at the corner of Jefferson and Congress Streets. Just as the museum was founded by activists, Lagno hopes it can be saved by activists. We're just a group of concerned citizens, he said. We don't speak for the museum, but we speak from our hearts on behalf of the museum. We understand it's a process and we don't want to be antagonistic about it. Members of Save Our Museum will attend a joint Lafayette City Parish Council budget hearing at 1 p.m. Thursday at City Hall to comment on the proposed cuts. They also plan to attend and comment during the joint public hearing for public input at 5:30 p.m. on August 18th. Mayor President Josh Guillory offered a suggestion of a budget to the councils, Lagno said. The way we see it is that it starts a conversation with the councils, and we just want to be a part of the conversation. The councils represent us, and they're supposed to act on behalf of the people, and that's who we are. Before they act, we want them to listen to us. And you can learn more about our Save Our Museum at facebook.com/SaveLSM. Lafayette teachers, staff okayed to wear scrubs. System cities safety, extra duties related to COVID-19 protocols. Because Lafayette Parish teachers and staff will have extra duties this fall related to COVID-19 safety protocols, they will be able to wear scrubs in the classroom, according to a memo sent Monday from Jennifer Gardner, LPSS Chief Officer. Due to the extra duties and as an extra measure of safety, school based teachers and staff will be allowed the option of wearing scrubs through phase 3 of the COVID-19 pandemic, the memo reads. Extra duties for teachers will include taking student temperatures in the morning and after lunch and cleaning and disinfecting student desks and other surfaces each day and between classes. Scrubs are sanitary and designed to be simple with minimal places for contaminants to hide, sturdy to launder under high pressure and high temperatures, and inexpensive to replace, Gardner wrote in the memo. Wearing scrubs will be optional and they must be school appropriate, look professional, and be well kept, according to the memo. Each school's administration will determine the dress code for their campus, such as color and or print of the scrubs and the type of shoes allowed to be worn. Employees will receive a memo from their school administrators defining dress codes and guidelines through Phase 3 of the Back to School plan. Lafayette Parish students will return to classes in a hybrid schedule on August 17th, with students split into groups alternating in-person classes and virtual coursework. The start of school was pushed back from August 13th to August 17th to allow teachers more time to be trained, practice safety protocols, and to prepare for an effective start to the 2020-21 school year. The plan was announced as the parish and state wrangle with rising COVID-19 case numbers, and Acadiana sees rising average daily caseloads. In July, the Acadiana region averaged more than 350 new cases daily. For parents concerned about the health risk associated with in-person classes, the Lafayette Online Academy offers a fully virtual curriculum. Before the Monday application deadline, about a quarter of LPSS students, or 7,500, had already applied to the Online Academy. The Lafayette Online Academy is a self-guided online learning alternative for K-12 students who do not attend in-person classes this fall because of the coronavirus pandemic. The curriculum is completed through the Edgenuity Learning platform, and students watch pre-recorded lessons and then complete virtual assignments, quizzes, and tests. Candy Store for Grown-Ups. Total Wine and More opens in Lafayette this week by Megan Wyatt. Total Wine and More, the country's largest independent fine wine retailer, will open its second Louisiana location this week in Lafayette's River Marketplace at the corner of Ambassador Caffrey Parkway and Cali Saloon Road. The Lafayette store boasts about 30,000 square feet of wine, beer, spirits, and snacks. Most of what's available is affordable, and much of it can be found at any other store. It's a candy store for grown-ups, says Brian Badgett, the Lafayette store manager. No matter who you are or what you like, there's something for everyone. You can spend less than $4 for a bottle of budget-friendly red wine or more than $4,000 for a high-end Scotch whiskey. There are shelves dedicated to Louisiana wines, beers, spirits, and snacks. Also inside, a cigar room and private area for tasting classes. The store's 50 employees have been busy stocking and training to prepare for the store's opening at 9 a.m. Thursday. Badgett said the store will offer samples and jazz music later in the day, along with safety measures in place to keep customers safe and staff safe as well. We're not just selling wine, we're selling experiences, Badgett said. That's why it's so fun to engage with our customers. They may be buying this wine for a dinner party or an engagement or an anniversary. So forever, that wine is tied to that experience. Started in Delaware in 1991, Total Wine and More operates more than 200 stores in 24 states, including one in Metairie that opened this summer. The Lafayette location at 4407 Ambassador Caffrey Parkway will be open 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Sunday. Tastings take place from noon to 6 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays, and from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Sundays. Learn more at totalwine.com. And now, a man pleads guilty in death of UL student. The driver in a crash that resulted in the death of a of Louisiana at Lafayette graduate student has pleaded guilty, KATC reported. Joseph Dakota Ritchie, 26 of Scott, pleaded guilty Monday to negligent homicide, possession of synthetic marijuana, possession of drug paraphernalia, reckless operation, speeding, and no seatbelt. Ritchie appeared in court via video conferencing. The victim in the 2017 crash on West Congress at Gilboa Road was Brad Whitlock. Whitlock's family was in court Monday, but they did not make any statements. Ritchie was sentenced to 5 years in prison on the negligent homicide charge, 6 months for the synthetic marijuana charge, 60 days for the paraphernalia charge, 90 days for reckless operation, and 30 days for speeding. The judge ordered that the sentences be served consecutively. In February, Ritchie waived his right to trial by jury. He was set for trial today, but pleaded guilty instead. Ritchie rear-ended the vehicle of Wedlock about 1 p.m. April 3rd, 2017. The impact caused Wedlock's vehicle to catch fire. He died as a result of injuries. Wedlock, 28, was a doctoral candidate. Ritchie was charged in a bill of information with vehicular homicide, OWI, possession of marijuana, possession of drug paraphernalia, reckless operation, speeding, and safety belt violation. Lafayette attorney Alfred Boustany III, who represents Ritchie, filed a motion February 10th waiving a jury trial and requesting Judge Edward Rubin with the 15th Judicial District Court decide the case. Ritchie was charged in August 2015 with possession of drug paraphernalia and in December 2015 with resisting arrest and 2 counts of possession of synthetic marijuana. A pretrial hearing on those charges is scheduled for September 15th. Easier said than done. Sunbelt football plans to give option to play for full 12-game schedules, but many conflicts arise. UL Athletic Director Brian Maggart said July 14th, if the Power Fives decide to do conference only, I'm not convinced that would dictate this group of five to have to make that decision right away. I think a little bit later decision could absolutely be in play. So far, it's played out that way with no official word from the Sun Belt Conference on its plan for scheduling this fall after the SEC, ACC, Pac-12, and Big Ten all declared their respective plans for the season. The SEC, Big Ten, and Pac-12 opted for conference-only schedules, while the ACC is doing conference plus one non-conference opponent. College football insider Brett McMurphy tweeted Monday morning the Sun Belt will attempt to play a 12-game schedule with 8 conference games, potentially pushing the Sun Belt title back to December the 12th. That, of course, is assuming Sun Belt programs can find replacements to get 12 games. McMurphy's tweet suggested team would not be required to get to 12 if lost games can't be replaced. Assuming the official Sun Belt announcement is at least similar to that report, there are a lot of games that must be replaced. Maggart's Raging Cajuns were scheduled to play his former school, Missouri, on November 21st. Appalachian State will potentially still play Wake Forest on September 11th, but won't be playing Wisconsin on September 19th. Arkansas State lost Howard on September 12th and on a road trip to Michigan on September 19th. Coastal Carolina lost South Carolina on September 5th and potentially a home game against Kansas on September 26th. The Big 12 announced Monday it would only play one conference game. Georgia Southern lost a November 21st date with Ole Miss. Likewise, Georgia State won't be playing Alabama on September 12th as originally scheduled. UL Monroe and South Alabama were hit as hard as any Sun Belt team. The Warhawks were scheduled to play Georgia on September 26th and Arkansas on November 21st, while South Alabama lost Grambling on September 12th and Florida on September 19th. The SWAC announced in July that it was pushing football back to the spring semester. Texas State has the most unique scheduling conflict as the only football team with a game scheduled before September 3rd, with SMU set for August 29th. The Sun Belt announced a week ago that the first permissible date of competition for the school year was September 3rd. Finally, Troy also lost a November 21st date with an SEC school in Tennessee, as well as potentially a September 19th date with North Carolina State. That's a lot of canceled games, but is that really the end of the list? Geographically, there are some early season contests that would seem to be in jeopardy in this current coronavirus climate. For example, Georgia Southern is slated to travel to Boise State on September 5th. That's roughly 2,376 miles across the country. The Cajuns were originally planning to entertain Wyoming on September 12th. Cab Poley was planning to leave the Pacific Ocean for ULM on September 5th. In that same category, Troy was scheduled to play Massachusetts on September 19th. None of those games have been canceled yet, but one has to wonder if they'll all actually take place in this financial climate. It is football. Such long trips will be canceled in most other sports, but perhaps phone calls have already been made behind the scenes to replace such opponents with more regionally sound foes. For example, UAB has an open date on September 12th because they were originally set to play a SWAC team in that spot. Georgia State was to play Alabama on this date as well, so perhaps UAB will now play Georgia State as a potential solution. Many teams have September non conference holds, so possible options are everywhere. However, it looks to be much tougher to replace a November 21st date like UL now has when most teams will be playing conference opposition. Perhaps playing conference teams not on this year's schedule can be a good option. Or perhaps even going way out of the box and playing a big draw rival twice in the same season. We're still waiting for those kind of answers. So far, it sounds like the Sun Belt is wisely keeping its options open to recoup as much revenue as it can, fittingly keeping us in the dark throughout the uncertain process. And for today in history, today is Tuesday, August 4th, the 217th day of 2020. There are 149 days left in this year. Today's highlight in history. On August 4th, 1944, 15-year-old diarist Anne Frank was arrested with her sister, parents, and four others by the Gestapo after hiding for 2 years inside a building in Amsterdam. Anne and her sister Margot died at the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. On this date, in 1914, Britain declared war on Germany for invading Belgium. The United States proclaimed its neutral, neutralism in the mushrooming world conflict. In 1936, Jesse Owens of the United States won the second of his four gold medals at the Berlin Olympics as he prevailed in the long jump over German Louis Long, who was the first to congratulate him. In 1964, the bodies of missing civil rights workers Michael Schwerner, Andrew Goodman, and James Chaney were found buried in an earthen dam in Mississippi. In 1996, on the final day of the Atlantic Olympics, Josiah Thugwane became the first Black South African to win a gold medal as he finished first in the marathon. Today's birthdays: actor, singer Tina Cole is 77. Actor, comedian Richard Belzer is 76. Actor, screenwriter Billy Bob Thornton is 65. Former President Barack Obama is 59. Retired MLB All-Star pitcher Roger Clemens is 58. Country singer John Nicholson is 47. Britain's Duchess of Sussex, the former actor Meghan Markle, is 39. Actor director Greta Gerwig is 37. And for your zodiacs, Leo, don't worry about what others decide to do. Do what works best for you and carry on until you reach your destination. Romance is on the rise. Virgo, before you engage in something new, get details in writing. You may want to revise an offer for your protection. Work diligently to improve your skills or a service you plan to present. Libra, find a quiet space where you can evaluate what's happening. Once you clear your head, you'll come up with a suggestion that addresses everyone's concerns. Love is in the stars. Scorpio, put together an agreement that is enticing and fair for everyone involved. Don't take anything or anyone for granted. Pay attention to detail. Sagittarius, clear the air and you'll feel better about your next move. Miscommunication will give someone a chance to take advantage of you. A point by point assessment is favored. Capricorn, someone will scrutinize your work before it's approved, so leave no room for error. A domestic change will be dependent on how well you get along with the people who share your space. Aquarius, be open to suggestions when making plans that will influence the way you live. A makeover will give you the pick me up you need. Pisces, a change to the way you earn your living may be daunting, but it will also have benefits. Take nothing, look on the bright side, and make the most of whatever situation you face. Aries, the changes that happen at work and home need to be well thought out if you are going to come out ahead. Take nothing for granted and don't share your plans prematurely. Taurus, stay focused on what matters most, play by the rules, and make sure you have all your paperwork in order. You have plenty to gain if you are honest and well prepared. Gemini, manipulate your skills to suit the changes going on in the workforce. Don't be fooled by someone offering empty promises. Set your sights on what works best for you. Cancer, follow your heart. Look over every detail and you'll come up with a plan that leads to a better position. Don't let change upset you. Make it work for you. And for the deaths in the Acadiana area, Glenn Broussard will be at Prince of Peace Catholic Church, located at 19222 Tomball Parkway in Houston, Texas, at 1:30 p.m. Lily Dronett, Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Church at 2 p.m. Lois Lee, St. Peter Catholic Church in Grand Prairie at 2 p.m. Janet Simon, St. Joseph Catholic Church at 2 p.m. and Cleo Wilkerson Sr. at Jeezy Ferguson Funeral Home at 11 a.m. And thank you for tuning in. This has been your morning news.